Want to thank everyone for joining us today at Parent University. Today, we're going to be talking about or sharing information about FAFSA. So at this time, just gave some instructions on how to access that interpretation tool, which is really important. What I want to do is introduce myself. My name is Miguel Benitez, and I am the Richardson ISD Family Engagement Director. And so I want to first and foremost thank everyone for taking a little bit of your time this evening to come and to learn about FAFSA and some other financial aid opportunities. With me tonight, we have two UTA, University of Texas at Arlington representatives that are going to provide this wonderful presentation. And so at this time, I'm going to pass it over to Mania Pitia, who will provide a little bit of an agenda, and she'll share with us how this presentation is going to move forward. All right. So again, thank y'all so very much. Want to thank Mayra Duran, our interpreter for this evening. Thank you for providing that service for us. And Mania, I'll let you go ahead and introduce the team that you're going to be presenting with. So
thank you, Miguel. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Mania. I am a financial aid counselor here at UTA. And so I'm going to give you guys a short presentation on federal financial aid, which is going to be a basic financial aid overview and the types of aid that are available here at UTA and just in general through the federal government. I also have my coworker, Emily Nesbitt, who's going to be monitoring the chat. So if you guys have any questions, please do not hesitate to put your questions in the chat room. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you guys really quickly. Okay. All right, so again, this is just a general overview about federal financial aid. Okay, let me switch to that. Okay, I am the presenter for today. My name is Mania Pitia. I am a UTA financial aid counselor, and just a little bit about what I do. I help students understand the financial aid process. So I answer their emails, I answer their in-person or on the phone questions about federal financial aid, and I also award students. So that's what I usually do on a day-to-day basis. So if you guys have any questions about federal financial aid after this presentation, please don't hesitate to ask me. I can answer most of your general questions. And also, again, my coworker, Emily Nesbitt, she's going to be monitoring the chat. So if you do have questions during the presentation, do not hesitate to put it in the chat, and she will answer your question for you. And this general overview of financial aid is going to go over how to apply for financial aid, the different aid available for you, and also scholarship opportunities that we offer here at UTA. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Here at UTA, we offer over 30 million in scholarships and a total of 500 million in financial aid funds every single school year. So we have a lot of funding available to help you guys pay for your classes and to help you fund your education. So regardless of what it is that you want to do based on your educational goals, there is some type of funding that's available here at UTA to help you reach those goals. And just a little bit about who we are here at UTA. At UTA, diversity is a core value. So we have students from all different backgrounds that are attending UTA every single academic year. We are the 5th highest diversity rank in the nation, and we have over 300 student organizations that are available on campus. We have an undergraduated population of 29,000 and more, and over 60,000 total students. So that includes our undergraduate students, our graduate students, and our students who are enrolled in our online program. And a lot of those students live on or adjacent to campus, so 9,200 plus live close by, and we are also the #1 in Texas for veterans. So if you are a veteran of a veteran family, we have our Veterans Affairs Office, which is a great resource to help you guys find different ways to help pay for your education using veteran benefits. And so we are here to help. We offer over 7% of our students some type of financial aid. There is funding here for you to use to help pay for your education. And I'm gonna give you more information on how to apply for that funding. Here at UTA, we consider college an investment in your future, and that investment has a cost. UTA has what's known as an estimated cost of attendance, and this is just a general amount that we have to give students and parents an idea of what it will cost you guys to attend university. So this estimated cost of attendance includes tuition and fees, books and supplies, housing and meals, transportation, personal and miscellaneous expenses. Now, it's not just UTA that has a cost of attendance. Every school that you apply to has an estimated cost of attendance to give you an idea of what you will be paying to attend your school. Now, this is just an estimate. This does not mean that you will be paying this amount to attend UTA. So students are not paying $27,996 this year to attend UTA. It is just a guideline that is used for awarding and also to give you an idea of what it'll cost for you to attend. For example, this is just an estimate. Books and supplies, we have $1,206, but some students, they rent their books or they find their books online for cheaper prices, so they're not paying $1,206 for their books. This is just an idea of what it may cost you. So I would just recommend that you guys look at your own personal expenses and your own personal budget to kind of get an idea of what you'll be paying or what types of funding that you have to contribute towards your education, and use that as a guide to help you determine what your actual cost will be once you start thinking about attending university. In order to get federal financial aid, the first step is submitting what is called the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, or the FAFSA. And this is an online application for this upcoming school year that begins in fall 2021. Students will need to submit the 2021-2022 FAFSA. And this FAFSA is available on studentaid.gov. And you can put up to 10 schools to send your FAFSA to. For UTA, our school code is 003656, but you can also search the schools by the name. So if you don't know the school code, you can still find the school on there. They have a list of most universities here in the United States, so you can find whichever school you're looking for. And the FAFSA is used to determine your eligibility for grant funding and other types of aid that are offered at the university. So this is your first step to being considered for these financial aid programs. And the priority deadline for this aid is January 15, 2021. That doesn't mean that you can't submit it after January 15th, but if you submit it after that date, you might not get the maximum amount of grant funding that you qualify for. So we always encourage students to submit the FAFSA as soon as you can, because there's a lot of funding available for you if you submit it early. And once you submit your FAFSA, you'll need to turn in all required documentation and be admitted to UTA or any university that you're applying to so that they can award you the aid that you're eligible to receive.
So Mania, we did have a question come in regarding housing requirements.
Of course, yes.
Is there any housing requirement at UTA?
It depends on the university housing that they apply to. Some of the dorms require you to be enrolled in a specific number of hours, so it'll just depend on the specific one. Now, if you live close to campus or off campus, there's no really requirement. So students are not required to live on campus, so you can live with your parents, you can live off campus, or you can like any other situation, like in a house, you can rent a house. Like, it just depends on what you want to do, but students are not required to live on campus at all. So does that kind of answer the question?
Thank you.
So yeah, so for the 2021-2022 FAFSA, it is currently available. It became available on October 1st, 2020, and we always encourage students and parents to use what's known as the IRS data retrieval tool, which transfers your tax information from the IRS directly onto your FAFSA, which reduces the amount of information that you have to manually enter. And it also reduces the documentation that is required by the financial aid office. Now, for some reason, not all students have the IRS data retrieval tool available. So in that case, you will just manually enter that information. So that doesn't mean you can't submit the FAFSA if you can't use the DRT or the data retrieval tool. It just means you'll need to put in more work by yourself manually versus having the information transferred in. But this is a really great tool, and we encourage all of you guys to use this DRT. And prior to submitting the FAFSA, you'll have to create what is known as a federal FSA ID, which stands for Federal Student Aid. The FSA ID is used to electronically sign your FAFSA, and each parent and each student have to create their own FSA ID and password. All of this will be created on studentaid.gov, and you will actually have to create this before you can submit the FAFSA or start a FAFSA application. So this will be your first step before you can submit that application. And I always encourage every student when they're creating an FSA ID is to keep it somewhere where you know it's safe and you can remember it, or make it easy for you and your parents to remember it, because you're going to be using this every single year, because the FAFSA has to be submitted every single year for you to be considered for financial aid. All right, so now that we've submitted our FAFSA, we've completed the application, and the school has received the application, and the Department of Education has processed it. The next step is the Department of Education calculating what is known as an expected family contribution, or an EFC. This expected family contribution is the amount that your family can reasonably be expected to contribute, and it stays the same regardless of which college you apply to. There are two main components to the expected family contribution. There is the parent contribution, which is based on the parent's tax information, and the student's contribution, which is based on the student's tax information. And both of these combined create the expected family contribution. Now, this is not the amount that you have to pay for your student to attend university. It's not like you have to write out a check for the expected family contribution. This is just an index that is used to help determine the amount of aid, specifically grant funding, that students are eligible for. And the lower the number is, and the more likely that you'll receive grants. And the inverse is true. The higher the EFC, the less likely you are to receive grant funding. Once you submit the FAFSA, you may also be selected for a process called verification. Verification is a process by which we have to make sure that the information you put on the FAFSA is correct. One out of every 3 FAFSA applicants are randomly selected for verification, and if you use the DRT, you will reduce your chances of being selected for this process. So we always encourage you to use the DRT if you can. However, if you are selected, your school will notify you either via mail or email, or they will put it on your student portal. Here at UTA, we put the information on the students, what is called the student's MyMav account, which is their student portal, and we also send them an email, and we mail a letter to them letting them know that they've been selected. So your school will always contact you if you have been selected for verification. And so always just keep up to date with your information, with your school portal and your email, and make sure they haven't sent you anything, because this verification process can take several weeks, and we cannot award you any financial aid funding until it is complete. So if you are selected for verification, go ahead and submit the documents as soon as possible, or reach out to the university as soon as possible if there's anything that you don't understand, so they can help you get that resolved before the school year begins.
So we have a question that just came in. Mania says, my student doesn't know what school they want to apply for. Do we have to list schools to apply?
Yes, you do have to list schools in order to submit the application. If you do not know all the schools that you want to apply to, I would recommend just picking one school that you know in general you may want to apply to and send it to that school, because you can always go back to the FAFSA and add more schools. So you always have that opportunity to add more schools once you find out which other schools that you want to submit the FAFSA to. But yes, initially you do have to include a school in order to submit the FAFSA.
Thank you.
Yes. Now I'm going to talk about what's called the special circumstance form. So students, they can submit this form to their school's financial aid office if their FAFSA is no longer accurate. So for multiple reasons, the FAFSA can be completely different than what your current situation is. So schools have this special circumstance form to allow students that opportunity to get their FAFSA adjusted. So for example, if you experience a loss or change of employment, a death of a parent or spouse, divorce or separation, or loss of benefits, or any extenuating medical circumstance, you may be able to submit this special circumstance form to the school's financial aid office and have them reevaluate your FAFSA. And if they reevaluate your FAFSA, you may become eligible for additional grant funding. And for grant funding, that's like essentially free money. So you may be eligible for this type of funding if you were not previously. It's a very important form for students, especially this year with COVID-19. A lot of our students and parents experience like a loss or change of employment. So they were able to submit this special circumstance form in order for us to reconsider their FAFSA and have it more accurately reflect their current situation. For federal financial aid, there are two main types of financial aid. There is gift aid, which does not require any repayment. So that's your scholarships or your grants. And then there's self-help aid, which requires repayment like federal student loans, or federal work study, which requires you to be employed in order to receive it. So these two types of aid is generally what you will see when you are awarded a financial aid package. And I'm going to talk about one type of gift aid, which is our need-based grant programs. So there are different types of grants that students may be eligible to receive. There are federal grants, such as the Pell Grant or the Federal Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant. A lot of our grants do have abbreviations, because they are a mouthful. So if you don't remember all of it, that's fine. There's also institutional grants, such as the MAF grant. So institutional grants are just grant funding through the specific university. For example, only UTA offers the MAF grant. Other universities in Texas might not offer the MAF grant. There's also state grant funding, which is through the state of Texas. So the Texas Public Educational Grant, or TPEG, that is a type of state grant funding. There's also federal work study and state work study. So all of these grant programs, they're the ones where you can receive it if your EFC is low. And the higher your EFC, the less likely you are to receive it. So, and we use your cost of attendance and your expected family contribution, your EFC, together to determine your eligibility for these grant programs. So need-based just means that based on your cost of attendance and your EFC, it makes you eligible for these programs. Here at UTA, we also offer another need-based program called the Texas Grant Program. And this is for students who are initially coming in, and we also do offer for students who receive their associate's degree. So the first step will be to enroll in a 4-year university within 6 months of graduating from a Texas high school. Again, this is only available for Texas residents and also in a 4-year university. So unfortunately, if you do attend community college, they do not offer the Texas Grant Program. You also have to be registered with Selective Service or be exempt. You need to be eligible based on your EFC, and also your cost of attendance will be used to determine if you're eligible. For this current school year, students who had an EFC of 6,047 or less were prioritized for the Texas grant funding. You also need to have not been convicted of a felony or a crime involving a controlled substance. There is more to this Texas grant program, so if you want to go to www.collegeforalltexans.com, you can find out more information about the Texas grant program. For our undocumented or DACA students, we have what is known as the Texas Application for State Financial Aid, or TASFA. This is for students who do not qualify for FAFSA and are considered Texas residents. So generally, our undocumented and DACA students apply for TASFA. Unfortunately, not all schools in Texas offer TASFA, so you'll have to contact each school for information whether or not they offer the TASFA for their undocumented or DACA students. But here at UTA, we do offer the TASFA. And for the TASFA here at UTA, we are, for students who receive the TASFA, they are applied for the Texas Grant Program. So we use the Texas Grant program funding in order to award students for TASFA here at UTA. So it's just grant funding that we are giving to students. But these funds are very limited, so we encourage students to submit their TASFA as soon as possible, and ideally before January 15, 2021 or earlier. That it would increase your chances of being considered for these grant funding. And the TASFA application, it is a paper application. Unfortunately, there is no online option for the TASFA, so you'll have to either print it out or complete it electronically and submit like the physical copy or to the financial aid office for them to be able to review it. Here at UTA, we have applications available in our office if you want to come in and pick up an application, or you can go to our website at www.uta.edu/FAO or www.collegeforalltexans.com, and you can find the TASFA applications there and submit it to the different schools. Another thing about the TASFA application, you do need to submit it with your tax return or tax transcripts so that we can review your eligibility for TASFA. The last type of financial aid I want to talk about is federal student loans. There are two main types of federal student loans. There is the subsidized loan and the unsubsidized loan. So the main difference between the two loans is that the subsidized loan is interest-free while you're enrolled in school, while the unsubsidized loan begins accruing interest as soon as you receive that loan. So whenever students are trying to decide which type of loan to use first, we always encourage you to take out the subsidized loan first before you take out the unsubsidized, because it does have the better terms. Both of them, however, have the same interest rate. For this current school year, it is a 2.75% fixed interest rate. Unfortunately, it does change every single school year, so the interest rate does not remain the same. So you can have loans with different interest rates for different school years. And both of these loans, they don't need to be repaid until 6 months after you graduate, or 6 months after you drop below half-time enrollment, or 6 months after you withdraw from the university. So there is a 6-month grace period before you actually have to start repaying these loans. And unfortunately, a lot of parents and students don't consider federal student loans as financial aid, but for the purposes of federal funding, we do consider student loans like a type of financial aid that students and parents can utilize. With the federal student loans, if you don't receive any grant funding or any scholarship, you are guaranteed to receive federal student loans. Actually, even if you receive grants or scholarships, we would still offer you student loans, because this is a type of funding that students and parents can utilize to help pay for their education. All right, so let's recap a little bit. The important things to remember is that the FAFSA and TASFA applications are currently available for you guys to submit. Submit the applications as soon as you can, because it does take some time to process, and complete any verification that you're selected for if you are chosen. and be admitted to UTA or any university that you apply to, because you cannot be awarded before you're admitted. So that would be like a very important step to receiving financial aid. But once all of those above steps are completed, your financial aid can be used to help you pay for your classes. It will disperse, and any excess amount that you receive, you can use it to cover any of your other educational expenses. That's just how financial aid just works in general. Okay, so an important aspect of financial aid that is really becomes important once you're attending university is called satisfactory academic progress. So every student applying for federal financial aid must meet certain academic requirements. And for SAP, there are three main components. There's cumulative GPA, cumulative pace of program progression, and maximum time frame. So there are minimum amounts for each of these components that students have to meet in order to retain their eligibility for financial aid. And every school has different SAP requirements. So contact each school that you're applying to and find out what their SAP policy is, so that you make sure once you are attending university, you keep it in mind and you're meeting these components in order to make sure that you don't lose your eligibility for financial aid. However, if you do fail to meet these SAP requirements, there is an appeal process that you can go through in order to be reconsidered, and they may be able to award you even though you are not meeting SAP. But that appeal process does comes with certain terms that you may have to meet in order to either maintain your eligibility or to regain your eligibility. So again, contact each school's financial aid office and find out what their SAP policy is. Right, now I'm going to talk about one of the most important parts of funding for our university here. At UTA, we offer over $30 million in scholarships every single year to incoming, transfer, and current students. So there's a lot of scholarship opportunities available specifically at UTA. And this is for the 2021-2022 academic year. The first one that I want to talk about is the National Merit Scholarship, which is up to $26,503 annually and $106,000 over 4 years. So this is for the National Merit finalists. And in order to qualify for this scholarship, you have to submit your National Merit Certificate to our scholarship office and submit proof of UTA as college of first choice to the scholarship office too. So that's how you can qualify for the National Merit Scholarship if you are a National Merit finalist. And this scholarship is also renewable for all 4 years of university if you meet the renewal requirements.
Mania, we did have a question come in.
Yes.
Regarding the interest rates for federal loans.
Yes, sir.
Are they annual or daily interest rates?
They are annual interest rates. Yes.
Thank you.
Awesome. So for this current 2021-2022 academic year, admission to UTA is test optional, meaning the SAT and the ACT are not required to be eligible for admissions and to be eligible for scholarships. And so if you submit your SAT or ACT scores, we will consider them if it'll improve your chances of receiving these awards, but if they won't improve your chances, then they won't be considered. And I just want to clarify that for UTA, for the general scholarships, your admissions application is your application for the scholarship. So there is no separate scholarship application you have to submit. You just need to be admitted to UTA by the deadlines for our scholarships in order to be considered for them. So your admissions to UTA is how we will review your eligibility for our scholarship. And these scholarships, they will vary depending on your strength, your academic profile, and if you meet 2 or more of the scholarship criteria that I'll talk about in a little bit.
Mania, we did have a question come in
Yes, sir.
regarding FAFSA, and it reads, still about FAFSA. My student is still waiting for green card. He has already a social security number. However, the adjustment of status immigration process is ongoing. Waiting for final steps to get green card delayed due to COVID. However, current status is still considered an eligible non-citizen. Is there any specific guidance in this case?
If your student is an eligible non-citizen, he can still receive federal financial aid, even if he hasn't received his green card yet. So he can still be considered for federal financial aid as an eligible non-citizen. But once he, once he receives his green card or his permanent residency card, then he can, update his FAFSA with that information.
Then we have another question which says, my child wants to take advantage of the Dallas promise and go to community college for the first year to acclimate and knock out some prerequisites. How does all this tie together if there's supposedly no tuition at community college and he won't need financial aid for another year?
So if he doesn't receive federal financial aid at community college, once he does transfer to either UTA or another 4-year institution, like his eligibility, basically it's just eligibility that he hasn't used as far as financial aid goes. So if he doesn't use any financial aid once he transfers to 4-year university, then he'll become eligible to utilize that amount that he didn't use before. It's just like, if you don't use it, it's not gonna affect you. You'll just be able to utilize it once you apply for financial aid and you are eligible for it.
Thank you. We have another question. Yeah. My child, this is in Spanish, my child is in 11th grade. Would I need to solicit, I guess, financial aid next October?
Of October 2021? Yes. So if your child is currently in 11th grade, once he becomes a senior, that's when he'll apply for financial aid, because the FAFSA becomes available every year on October 1st of the year. So he can apply in October 1st, 2021 for the 2022-2023 academic year. Yeah, 2022-2023, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so with the UTA Presidential Honor Scholarship, this is up to $12,000 annually and up to $48,000 over 4 years. So a highly qualified academic profile may contain either a top 10% rank, 3.9 high school GPA or higher, or 50 SAT or higher, or 35 ACT or higher test scores. But the deadline for this current upcoming 2021-2022 academic year has already passed. The deadline was January 7th of 2020. So with the Presidential Honor Scholarship and the Presidential Scholarship, which I will talk about next, the deadline is usually very early. So you'll need to be admitted by that December 7th deadline in order for you to be considered for this scholarship. And so the UTA Presidential Scholar, that is up to $10,000 annually and up to $40,000 over 4 years. So a highly qualified academic profile may contain either a top 10% to 25% rank or higher, a 3.7 high school GPA or higher, or a 1350 SAT or 29 ACT test scores. And again, the admission deadline was December 7th, 2020. So if you missed that deadline, there are other scholarships that I'm going to be talking about. But if you made that deadline, then you would be considered for these specific scholarships. And these, over 4 years is based on our renewal requirements. So you can renew it up to 4 years if you meet all of the renewal requirements. Now we have the Maverick Academic Scholarship, which is up to $2,000 to $8,000 annually and up to $8,000 or $32,000 over 4 years. And a highly qualified academic profile may contain a top 50% class rank, a 3.5 high school GPA, or an 1100 SAT or 23 ACT test scores. Now, the admission deadline for the Maverick Academic Scholarship has not passed yet. It is going to be February 15, 2021. So that means you will need to be admitted to UTA by February 15, 2021 in order to be considered for this scholarship. And we also have our new Maverick Recognition Scholarship, which is up to $1,000 annually. And this is for students who do not meet any of the previous scholarships that I talked about, but completed at least 3 advanced academic courses in their final year of high school, so their senior year. So the advanced academic courses are considered like the AP, your dual credit, your IB or honor courses. Those will be considered. We're not going to be considering the specific test scores that you made, but we're also, or the final grade that you made. We're just looking to see that you actually, had those classes, actually took those classes in high school. And the admission deadline for the Maverick Recognition Scholarship is also February 15, 2021. So you have to be admitted to UTA by that deadline in order to be considered for the scholarship. For our transfer students, so students who attend community college and then transfer to UTA or transfer to UTA from another university, we have up to $1,000 to $4,000 annually available, or up to $2,000 or $8,000 over 2 years if you meet the eligibility requirements. Students who are eligible for this transfer scholarship will have a minimum GPA minimum transfer GPA of a 3.5 or a completed at least a minimum of 24 credit hours that they transferred in. So you wouldn't need to meet both of those requirements. And we also have a Pi Theta Kappa scholarship, and if you submit the documentation for that, you can also be considered for the PTK scholarship. After, if you don't receive any scholarship through our general academic scholarship, or you are looking to get more scholarship, here at UTA we have what is known as Math Scholarship, which is a portal where all the departments here at UTA will put in their scholarships and students can apply for the ones that they may be eligible for. The Math Scholarship is tailored to you and your specific major or any other information that is on your student portal, and it'll bring up scholarships that you might be eligible for and you can apply to. So this is a great tool that students can use here at UTA if they don't receive any general academic scholarship, or if you just want more scholarship, or in order to help you pay for your classes or to help you pay for your education. Different schools do have different portals, so I would say go ahead and contact the schools that you're applying to and see what kind of scholarship that they offer outside of the general scholarships, because they might have a general scholarship application that you can submit to be considered, or maybe your specific departments at that school might have separate applications. So just follow up and ask them, like, hey, you know, how do I apply for scholarships outside of the general ones that they offer, because they may also have like other ways for you to get those fundings. Another type of scholarship we have is outside scholarships. These are scholarships from like your community center, your parents' employer, or your own personal employer that you can use to help pay for your education. Here at UTA, we have what is called an outside scholarship provider information. So for this form, you'll get it from our UTA scholarship website, and you can send it to your scholarship donor, and they will send it back to us with your information, so we can put your scholarship on your account and disperse it whenever before classes begin. So this is an important step if you're receiving any outside scholarships. And again, contact the schools that you're applying to and see what their process is for outside scholarships, so you can make sure that you get the scholarship information to the donor or to your school as soon as possible, so that your scholarship disbursement is not delayed.
Mania, we've had some lots of questions come in. I just want to go try to answer some of these.
Awesome.
we have one that asks, do these academic scholarships cover tuition and fees or anything else?
Yeah, so the way that our scholarship works is when you're awarded the scholarship, depending on the amount, it may cover the full amount of your tuition or it may not. So if you're so let's see, you receive one like our Maverick Academic Scholarship for about $2,000. That will be split between 2 semesters, so $1,000 for spring and $1,000 for the fall. So that's not going to cover your full tuition. However, you might receive other types of aid. So like you might receive like a grant or a loan to help you cover that amount. So not necessarily, the scholarship may not cover your full tuition, no. So it just depends on the specific amount of the scholarship.
Okay. There's another question here. Can you please explain the difference? I shouldn't pay interest. I believe that's what it says.
Of the,
yeah. Hey, can I answer that?
Yeah, of course.
Well, yeah. So the so with interest, that was with referring to the interest rate we were talking about that Mania was talking about earlier. It's a 2.75% federal loan annual interest on those loans, and that interest only will accrue while you're in school for unsubsidized loans, and does not accrue for the subsidized loans. But you only have to pay it after. I know Mania already said that, but just to reiterate it, you don't have to start making payments until after you graduate.
Okay, thank you, Emily. We have a question here that states weighted GPA is also valid. My student came from overseas and the school here is not able to calculate the regular GPA, so he doesn't have GPA, but weighted GPA. He studied 11th grade and is not doing 12th grade with weighted GPA. Is this okay?
So for my understanding, for our scholarship, we do convert it. So we use the unweighted GPA, but if your student's GPA is weighted, we would just make a conversion. That's what we do for his scholarship. Well, for when we're considering him for a scholarship, we'll just convert it to the unweighted.
Let me see, we have a question here. Any tips for my kids who was in foster care and gets free tuition and fees from state schools? How can they apply for aid to cover room and board, etc.?
Yeah, of course. So for students who are in foster care or they can still apply for federal financial aid. So they would need to, of course, submit the FAFSA and indicate on the FAFSA there is a question asking about whether or not they were in foster care. So they would answer yes to that question. And then depending on they answered their other question, they might be selected for verification. But if not, they would just receive financial aid like all other students, but they'll be considered an independent. They may be considered independent student for the purposes of financial aid. So they only have to enter their own tax information or their own income information, but they can still be considered for like their federal grant funding, federal student loans, and like grants and scholarships. So it'll be just the same process. They would just submit a FAFSA and they can receive that in addition to like the waiver that they receive through their to the schools in Texas. So.
We have a question here that says, in Spanish, it says, can I solicit various employers like McDonald's who offer scholarships? What would happen if they're accepted with those scholarships? Would be the same as the schools.
If they're accepted. So if they receive a scholarship through like an outside donor like McDonald's, they can still receive those scholarships. So they'll, here at UTA, you'll provide that outside scholarship provided information form. I'm not sure how they do it at other schools. It may be a little bit different, but their scholarship will be added to their student account. And here at UTA, we also take outside scholarship into consideration when we're awarding students. So depending on the type of aid that he receives, it might lower his, like for example, outside scholarship does affect grant funding. So it might lower it depending on his cost of attendance. But yeah, but with outside scholarships, we always, like when it comes to like receiving that, we always encourage students to apply to as many outside scholarships as possible. So if you receive that, that's just like more scholarship that you'll get. It doesn't mean that you can't get grants or any other type of aid. It just means like it'll just be added onto the type of funding that you're receiving.
All right, Mania, I think you're done with your presentation. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I was just gonna say, please don't hesitate to contact us. You can call us, you can email us, you can reach out to us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're always updating our different social media sites. So we have plenty of more information about financial aid on those sites. So if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact us. And of course, thank you guys for attending this presentation. It was definitely my pleasure and I enjoyed speaking to you guys. So thank you so much.
We did have another question come in. How does FAFSA work for out-of-state schools?
Yeah, so for out-of-state schools, you can enter like on your FAFSA when you're entering the schools, like you can search for schools that are outside of Texas. That's no issue. However, you're going to be awarded based on how those out-of-state schools award. So unfortunately, I don't have much information about that. They have like their own like awarding process. Like every different state has like the specific way that they award that's different from other states. So you would have to contact those specific schools that you're applying to out of state to see like what kind of funding that they offer to students who are applying from somewhere else. Here at UTA, for out-of-state students, if you receive like one of our general academic scholarship, you can get what's called a tuition waiver that'll help cover, well, it'll help reduce your tuition to the in-state amount. But I'm not sure if other out-of-state colleges offer that same option. You would just have to ask them.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm still going through the chat and looking at if any more questions come in. So
yeah, of course.
There is a question from Mr. Swarzinski, and Mr. Swarzinski, I will address that with you in just a little bit. But I want to thank UTA and I want to thank Mania and Emily for coming out and speaking to you about this very important topic. I mean, this is how we help our children, prepare for the future. We need to get them ready. It takes a lot of preparation. The deadlines will come quickly. So we need to work diligently to be able to, complete forms, get information together, and, have it ready for institutions of higher learning to process. So I really do appreciate you guys taking this time to provide that information. Remember, this is UTA, but like Mania said during their presentation, this is for all schools across the state. The most important thing is to learn about the institution first and foremost, what your child, is really interested in doing, doing some research behind it, work with that, with your child to encourage that, and then start making appointments to go visit these campuses, make appointments with the financial aid counselors to figure out what the processes are going to be. So there's a lot of work that goes to this, but remember, this is an investment in their future. And so we need to work to do this in the best way possible. So I can't, I always appreciate a university, university representatives who take time to come out and provide these types of presentations for our families. So I want to thank you for that. We still got about 9 minutes before our time is up. So we're going to continue to take some questions. Emily, I appreciate you, answering some of those for me. I was sitting there going through chats and and you were answering them while I was asking. So I appreciate you for just being patient. So again, we'll stay here for a little longer. And if you've got some more questions, and we'll be here to answer them. Mr. Swarzinski, UTA grad. Hey, I am too. I am. What I confess, I am a UTA graduate myself. I have my undergraduate and my graduate degrees from UTA. So go Mustang. Go Mavericks. I was going to say something else. I had another school in my anyway. My mind floats sometimes. But I want to. At this time, there was something else I wanted to, during the beginning of my presentation, I just want to make sure that I introduce myself. My name is Miguel Benitez, and I'm the Director of Family Engagement. And again, we have UTA who came on, and their financial aid office and did this for us. So I want to thank them again. I want to thank you for taking this time to listen to this wonderful presentation so that we can start preparing our kids for college, university life. So thank you so much. There was a question here by Mr. Swarzinski regarding Richardson High School. So if there's an appointment that needs to be made within the next 2 weeks, what I would recommend, Mr. Swarzinski, is to go ahead and call the school and speak to Ms. Clay directly to see what is due, because I'm not sure what she's asking. And so tomorrow, I can help facilitate some of that if you'd like. I'm going to give you my number so that we can work together to get that taken care of. I'm going to go ahead and give that to you here in just a second. So I'm going to give you my direct.
Mania, do you know if UTA is open for tours right now? I don't know the answer to that.
That's a great question.
I'm not sure either. I would like to say like you would have to make an appointment to get a tour at UTA. I think that's what they're doing right now.
Okay, good.
All right. Well, let me see. I've got 5 more minutes, and I don't want to close it out just yet, because sometimes we think of, some important questions right when we're just, in a calm state. So not that I wasn't calm, but I get a little nervous every time we do these presentations. I'm just a nervous person. So.
Did you get that question in the chat? It was height. Is it Spanish? I wasn't sure if you.
I just saw it. Yes. Entonces tengo que empezar en enero a visitar la ciudad. So then I would have to begin visiting the universities to investigate how they work with scholarships, because I lost my job and 90% of my earnings and my savings. So yes, I'm just going to let you address that, Mania.
Oh, can you repeat that one more time? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was a long sentence. So I'm just going to translate it. In other words, what she's asking is she would have to start visiting campuses now, or universities, to investigate how they were going to, how she would navigate to apply for scholarships
Mhm.
because she's lost, in essence, she's lost her job, and she's lost basically a lot of her income and her savings at this time. So yeah, I think the answer is yes. You start as soon as possible to look for financial aid and these this type of assistance.
Yeah, I agree. Start as soon as possible, and also I would say it's also helpful to like call the different schools. Like if you want to know about the financial aid office, you may also want to call them if you're not able to go there in person. They also can provide you really good information over the phone. Email is also a really great way to get in contact with your school. Here at UTA, like we email a lot of students, and we provide a lot of information via email. We can provide links and other like important places where they can go and give them more direction. So that's what I would recommend also. Just like reach out to them. If you can't go there in person, just like find other way to reach out to them. And also the websites are also like great sources of information. You can visit our UTA what do you call it, financial aid website, or any other school that you're applying to. You can visit their financial aid website, and they will basically have all the information that they would tell you if you were speaking to them in person.
So it's fair to say you could go to Dallas Community Colleges or Richmond Community College, and the process would be similar.
Yes, the process would be similar. Yes.
Well, okay. I think we're going to go ahead and close this out. It's 7:58. We want to thank you for joining us here at our parent university. Please stay abreast of what we've got coming up in January. We're finalizing some more parent sessions for us. So please stay tuned. And again, thank you, Mania and Emily, for this wonderful presentation. Thank you, parents, for all that you do for students, and we appreciate your engagement. So make sure that you have high expectations and that you're supporting and encouraging our students to do the very best that they can, because you know what, they will meet our expectations. We just got to just support them and push them forward. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Miguel. Thank you so much for hosting
Yeah,
this.
thank you.
Thank you.
Well, have a wonderful evening.
You too.
And I want to thank Myra for interpretation. Thank you. Thank you, Mayra Duran. Emily, we had one last question that came in regarding a son.
Yes.
Did you see that one?
Yeah, so you would want to, I would recommend, so let's see, they're freshmen right now in college wanting to transfer to Texas A&M College. So what I would recommend is contacting the scholarship office there and seeing what opportunities they have. I know at UTA we do have a transfer scholarship that's merit-based. And so they would likely also have one of those, and you can check on that. All right.
All right. And it's 7. We're past 7:01. All right. Thank y'all very much. Have a wonderful evening. Take care, Mania.
You will.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Thank you for everything.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.